Hello and welcome to Yerushalmi Berachos Daf Chavav in the Ozohar print. Today is one of the Yerushalmis that actually I found the most inspiring, and it's probably one of the things that whet my appetite for learning Yerushalmi, quite frankly. And I'm going to read the Pashup shot, and then we'll go to the esoteric. And I heard a lot of Mikey Deshir giving over this Yerushalmi and saying, we're just going to translate the words even though we don't understand it, but other people have explained it in many other significant ways, and I'm going to give you some Mar Makomos, and hopefully you'll have a deeper understanding of this as well. So Gemara is talking about the Kavana in Davening, and again, there's a very famous Yerushalmi, because Tosis and Rosh Hashanah, Daf Tes Zayin Amud Beis, during Maskell of the Iyun, and the Ritva over there, both quote this Yerushalmi, slightly different Gersos and slightly different explanations, but very, very important. Amar Rav Chia, Ruba. Rav Chia the Great says, Ana min Yoma lo kivinis. I, from my earliest days, never concentrated properly on davening, seemingly, during Shmona Esrei was talking about. No, one time, I tried to really focus. Virharis belibi v'amaris. I'm going to translate this simple reading. And then I started thinking in my mind, Man oil kame malka kadmoi. Who should enter first before the king? Is it Al Katfa I Reish Galusa? Is it the royal Al Katfa or the Exilarch? So he seems to be saying that he was distracted. Shmuel says, Shmuel Amar, Ana manis efrochaya. I started counting baby birds. So again, he was distracted in his davening, according to a simple shot. Rabbi Bon, famous Rabbi Bon in Yerushalmi, which is Rav Avon, Bar Chia Amar, he says, Ana manis dimusia saya. I counted rows of the stone in the wall. Again, very famous Yerushalmi. Amar Masam, this is probably the most famous line. Ana machzik tuva the Reishe. I give thanks to my head. The kad haves mati lamodim, because when I get to modim and I'm not concentrating, hu kara bigarme, it bows automatically, seemingly meaning I would be embarrassed that this wasn't happening, but yet my head, my head tells my knees to do it automatically. All right, so let's talk about Pashup shot, and then let's talk about a deeper shot. So Tosis in Rosh Hashanah in the Bavli actually quotes this and says explicitly that even Tanaim and Amoraim were not able to concentrate on davening, and it's really hard to concentrate. And you see first in the Yerushalmi that they weren't able to concentrate, and we shouldn't feel bad. We're supposed to try our best. Tachin azna takshav aznacha tachin libam makshav. The Taz brings this down from the Gemara that a person should prepare his heart. Tachin libam takshav aznacha. Then Hashem will listen. But we need a siyata dishmaya. Even when we start davening, we say Hashem savasai tiftach v'yagitu lasecha. We daven that Hashem should help us. Yishiboli Aleket is a very famous quote of this Yerushalmi that he basically says, again, it's Kipshuto, that people were not able to concentrate. We should not feel bad. They didn't even bow. They were just so distracted. Okay. Now, the Meiri also learns the same exact shot that this is what it is. There's a tremendous amount of responsibility and a tremendous amount of concentration needed in order to daven. All right. So, and again, as I mentioned, the Shmulei Leket and Tefillah brings down this very, very famous thing. Now, Agav, you should know that the Torah brings down a lot of what the Yerushalmi said earlier here, which is that basically, if you are unable to concentrate, don't go back. And the Torah himself adds a very famous line that we don't repeat Shmona Esrei because you're probably not going to concentrate anyway. And the Ramah made this ruling very, very famous in Orach Chaim, Kuf Aleph, Siman Aleph, Ayin Sham. You're very, very familiar, I'm sure. Okay, so obviously, again, everybody tries to concentrate, but it's not always possible. Okay, that's the main way of reading the Gemara. And again, I found this just so fascinating. Rosh Zalman Auerbach in his Chuvas, Mincha Shlema, he brings down this Tosis and this Yerushalmi that says, Kipshuto, that people have a hard time concentrating, and it's okay and it's normal. We try our best when we daven. This is a lot of relief. Now, there's a whole another Mahalik brought down by many other Mefarshim, the Be'er Sheva, the Masek Eliezer, Shita Mekubetzes brings it down, not the Rishon, the one in Yerushalmi, and the Chassam Sofer. These are all Mar Makomos and the Gadas Aliyo. Ayin Sham, I'll speak out some of them, and let's get going. I'll try to give you some of their pshatim as we sprinkle through it. Okay, so this whole Mahalik tries to give different pshatim about the exact verbiage. So, for example, the Chassam Sofer brings down that it's Yadua from the Asar Ma'amaros, the Ramah Mipano, that all these things about the king and the Exilarch, etc., they all refer to Kabbalistic things that I don't understand. And he says the building of the wall, that they were struggling with, that all refers to understanding esoteric things. The Chassam Sofer has a whole mushal. If you want to take a look, it's in Hagaz v'Chidushim in the Ozohar print. It's on Daf Tes Zayin Amud Beis to Yud Zayin Amud Beis in that section. But one thing I want to quote from him, which is very, very interesting, that he brings down like this: that the way you read the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Chia Rabba, he says, Anam in Yomi lo kavanis. I, from my earliest days, never had kavana. He says like this. The pshat is that just like it's brought down in the Sefer Kabbalah, that one of the Kabbalists said that from when he learned the kavanas that you're supposed to have when you daven, he started davening like a Tino Ben Yomo, like a here it is from the Chavas Yar or Chaim Simon Tuf Peites, that this is quoted that from the Rosh, some Kabbalists brought down that the Rosh Mekinon brought down that after he learned all the Siddur Kabbalah, he started davening like a Tinok Ben Yomo. So that's what he means, that he took a break from the Kavanas because they were staring his understanding. Ayin Shem in the Chassam Sofer has a whole pshat, but I want to just speak out a few of the pshatim over here. Okay, so first of all, Amar Rav Chia Rabbah, he says like this: the Grim Goldschleck, I don't know who this is, but it's brought down that he was asking who goes first, the Man Oil Kome Malko Kadmoi, who goes in front of the king first? Is it the Al Kafata or the Reish Galusa? He's saying like this: that is it that you talk about the Nasiim who died already, and there's a chus is there, and or is it there's a chus of what brings you into the Heichal HaMelech of Hashem? Ayin Sham. Also, when he says that I counted birds, so he says the pshat is that he was referring to when he was davening, he was trying to or his kavana. What are birds? Afrochim are little babies. That's the Tinoka Shel Beis Rabba, which Chazal say they're the ones that give the answer. So he was begging Hashem, please Hashem, answer the Tinokos, the children, and that's why we daven al leinu v'tzapenu, right? We daven for mercy, but also he was thinking about children. That's what he was davening. He was being or rachamim, and of course when he talks about the binyan of the bricks, that refers to avos. Or the avos. That's the tremendous achos they need. And finally, Ana Machzik Tuvi the Roshe. This is a very, very geshmak shot that he says that why am I grateful to my head? He says two things. Actually, we'll get to the second. He says one main thing. His main point is that my head makes me bow, even though I want to separate it from the Agadas Leo, which I want to get to in a minute. He says like this. He says that when I think about all the great things that Hashem does, that humbles me and makes me bow. That when I fill my mind, he says, Amar Rabbi Masanya. Rabbi Masanya says, Ana machzik tiv l'rashe. Give thanks to my head. The God having mata l'modim, because it forces me to bow. Because then when I start thinking about how much Hashem does for me, it's amazing and it pushes me to bow. And that's a very, very beautiful shot if you think about that. I want to get to that Agadas Elio. He's not Hasidish in the 1700s of Vilna. It's a beautiful print, by the way, if you're looking for it. So he brings down, of course, from Shmuel Yafo that we talked about many times. He always starts with his pshatim on the. He was a Mefarshei Agada that was influenced by that he influenced the Marsha, and brought down. We talked about him earlier. So he says like this: how could these people not be able to concentrate? So he says that maybe the pshat is that Chazal tell us in Berachos and Bavli Nun Hamad Aleph that Iyun Tefillah is masker avonos shel adam. When you look too much into your davening and then you expect things from Hashem, it's masker your avonos, because then Hashem says, "Oh, really? You think you deserve that?" So Memela, these people specifically would pull back on some of their concentration so they wouldn't be over in Iyun Tefillah. That's what they were doing. That's one shot. Another shot he says is that it's a compliment, although it's hard to understand how it's a compliment. Remember, I learned this many years ago, probably at least about 20 years ago when I saw this Chazal, and I found it very hard to understand. And I looked it up here, and back then I didn't understand it. I guess because I was I had some Oraisa Deratach. Now I do understand it, that it's hard to concentrate. But then it was like, how could that be about Gedolim? Now, life experience, you see it's hard to concentrate. But more than that, he says because they were Torah big Risasam, so their learning would interrupt their davening. And that these are all learning questions. Which again was like, well, how could that be? But the answer is that's what it is. There's a very geschmack story that is brought down by Reb Chaim Volozhin in his introduction to the Vilna Gaon's Safra Tznusa, Ayin Sham. It's printed in the Nefesh Chaim, some of the prints. It's a beautiful array of stories from Reb Chaim Volozhin, a close Talmud of the Gra. And there's just amazing stuff. But one of the stories is that the Gra held that you're not allowed to think in learning until you make a Berachos HaTorah. So one of the stories about how the Vilna Gaon was makbid on that, because he held that it was al-hirer as well, even though it's not how we paskin lahalacha. Ayin Sham in the Mishabura brings down the famous Bir Gra, etc. But there was one time that the Gra was davening Musaf was davening on Rosh Chodesh, and during Shmona Esrei, I don't have the story in front of me, but during Shachar Shmona Esrei, he came up with a pshat. I think it was the Zohar and Parshas Korach that bothered him. He had, I forgot how many pshatim, a number of pshatim, but then he realized that he was thinking about it during davening. So as soon as he finished, he stopped for a minute to be masader it in his mind, and then he forgot everything after davening, after finishing Shmona Esrei, and then he held it. The Vilna Gaon told this to Reb Chaim because he came to visit him, and he was extremely happy. And Reb Chaim said, "What happened?" He said, "What happened was, first I was davening and I thought of these pshatim and I stopped just to be masader so I don't forget it, and then I pushed it away. And then I forgot it all, and I was very, very sad because I forgot all those beautiful pshatim. Then during Musaf Shmona Esrei on Rosh Chodesh, it all came back to me, and I immediately pushed it away because I shouldn't be thinking of it during Shmona Esrei, and then I remembered it all plus more, I think, afterwards. Ayin Sham. But that's the story of the Vilna Gaon's emotional level, right? Again, for us, we're relying on the Torah and the Ramah that really I didn't concentrate at all, but you only repeat the first bracha and etc. And we're probably not going to have kavanah the second time around anyway, right? But that's the Vilna Gaon's madriga. Anyway, so he explains that people were tarid in their learning. So he says, what are some of the pshatim? So some of the pshatim is that the story about who goes first, the exilarch or this Persian official, was that he was thinking about the Gemara that talks about Melech V'Tzibor, who goes first to Din, and he was clearing the same shaila. How would that apply with these two people who gets judged by Hashem? What about the Shmuel who was counting the birds? So he says the pshat is that he was thinking about Kovei Hashem Achlifu Koach, the Gemara in Sanhedrin Tzadi Beis Amud Beis that talks about how when Lasa Lavo, I'm not sure why he was thinking about exactly these things, but how the tzaddikim will fly and that Hashem will destroy the world and change it, etc., etc. And Ribon says he was thinking about the walls. So again, he was thinking about Hashem's creation of the world. That's how Hashem built the world. He was thinking about Hashem creating the world. So these things were over them or distracted them, depending on how you learn. And last thing, which is overlaps with the shot that I said from Rav Masya, he says that like this, that really, I have a big Yetzer Hara, and my Yetzer Hara stops me from trying to give praise to Hashem. However, just like Davening says, Hishavti Tirachai, Shiva Ragli Visacha, that I thought about, this is capital Kufyates, Oskas, obviously, Hishavti Tirachai, right? So I was margo myself that I trained myself that my body should automatically thank Hashem, and this is actually the greatest compliment as to how he is Ma'or Kavana, and also lives his life, that he recognizes that sometimes we get distracted, but he tried to train himself, just like David trained his body. He tried to do an Avera, but then his feet pulled him back to the base medrash. What a beautiful, amazing madriga that we should all be zochet to that we're about to do something wrong, and that our feet are so used to doing what's right that we get pulled back. That's a pshat in bowing at modim. I hope this helped explain a lot of different beautiful pshatim here. Have a great day.